네, 제5차 유네스코 학습도시 국제 컨퍼런스에 참석해 주신 여러분께 잠시 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 잠시 후 한국 시간 오전 10시 30분부터 스페셜 세션이 시작될 예정이오니 모든 참가자분들께서는 행사장 안으로 입장하시어 착석해 주시기 바랍니다. I would like to inform you of the 5th International Conference on Learning Cities. Special session 2 will begin shortly at 10:30 a.m. Korean time. So all participants should enter the venue and take a seat. 자, 더불어 온라인 참가자 여러분들께서는 준비된 화면 앞에 자리를 지켜주시기 바랍니다. In addition, online participants should keep their seats in front of the prepared screen. 아울러 본 행사는 한국어와 영어 동시 통역이 제공됩니다. 동시 통역이 필요하신 오프라인 참가자분들께서는 현재 테이블 위에 놓인 통역 수신기를 착용하시고요. 한국어는 5번, 영어는 6번 채널을 맞춰주시기 바랍니다. 한국어는 5번, 영어는 6번 채널입니다. 자, 온라인 참가자분들께서는 사전에 안내드린 줌 통역 기능을 통해서 원하는 언어를 선택해 주시면 되겠습니다. In addition, simultaneous interpretation of Korean English is provided at this event. Offline participants who need simultaneous interpretation should wear an interpretation receiver on the table and tune into channel 5 in Korean and channel 6 in English. Online participants can choose the language they want with the Zoom interpretation function. We informed you in advance. 자, 아울러 오프라인 참가자분들께서는 원활한 행사 진행을 위해서 소지하고 계시는 휴대전화를
Recording in progress.
전원을 꺼두시기 바랍니다. 또한 코로나19 확산 방지를 위해 입장하신 후에도 반드시 마스크를 착용해 주시고요. 방역 지침 준수를 위해서 발제자 모두 마스크를 착용하고 발언하는 점에 대해서 깊은 양해 부탁드립니다. In addition, offline participants should switch their cell phones to vibration mode or turn off the power to facilitate the event. To prevent the spread of COVID-19, please wear a mask even after entering the venue, and we ask for your deep understanding that all presenters wear masks and speak to comply with the quarantine guidelines. 자, 온라인 참석자분들께서도 스크린 앞에 자리하신 후에는요, 스피커를 켜주시기 바라고요. 원활한 회의를 위해서 마이크는 음소거 상태를 유지해 주시기 바랍니다. Those who attend online should also sit in front of the screen and leave the speaker on and keep the microphone mute for a smooth meeting. 혹시라도 이번 행사장 소리가 들리지 않으시거나 또 이용에 불편함이 있으시다면 줌 채팅방을 통해서 연락 주시기 바랍니다. If you can't hear the sound of the venue or if you have any inconvenience using it, please contact the Zoom chat room. 자, 여러분 안녕하십니까? 저는 오늘 스페셜 세션 2의 진행을 맡은 아나운서 노주은입니다.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is No Ju-eun, MC for a special session today.
It's truly my honor and my pleasure to speak before all of you today. 자, 이번 세션은 코로나19 상황으로 인해 온라인과 오프라인을 병행하는 하이브리드 행사로 개최되고 있습니다. Due to the COVID-19 situation, today's session is held both online and offline as a hybrid event. 자, 자, 먼저 로버트 매츠 한국 조지 메이슨 대학교 학장님의 인사 말씀부터 청해 듣겠습니다. First of all, I would like to introduce Dr. Robert Matz, Dean of Mason Korea, George Mason University. Dr. Robert Matz will give a welcoming speech.
Hello, 안녕하세요. I want to welcome you all to this panel on serious games and lifelong learning. George Mason University is the largest public research university in the state of Virginia in the US. It is located just a short trip to Washington, D.C. It's also located in the high-tech Northern Virginia corridor. Through this corridor, about 70% of the world's data flows, maybe some of the games that people are playing are flowing right through Northern Virginia. George Mason University is an amazing success story in modern US higher education. It is classified in the US as a very high research university, or R1. There are just about 130 of those universities in the US, and George Mason is the youngest among them. It was recently rated as the top university under 50 years old in the United States. It is also a very international, a very diverse place that has always emphasized global perspectives. We believe, as I'm sure you all do as well, that the world's challenges and opportunities are global, so that education must be global. Part of the expression of that global emphasis is George Mason's founding of its campus here, George Mason Korea, here in Yeonsu and in the Incheon Free Economic Zone. Today we have faculty from our computer game design program from both the United States campus and our Korean one. Computer game design is one of the majors we offer here at Mason Korea. At the ICLC opening ceremony yesterday, we heard about the benefit to health and well-being of lifelong learning. The power of games to contribute to that learning is tremendous, because games meet people where they are, and we know how many people play games. It's on the level of the number of people who are watching drama or listening to music. So games are meeting people where they are, and gamification, turning learning into a game, can be a powerful means of learning. We also talked yesterday about the power of connection, and we can think about the way games connect people across spaces, regardless of distance. In short, I believe we are just beginning to develop the potential of games for serious purposes. That interest in serious games is one of the strengths of Mason's computer game design program, and I'm so glad we have experts on it today from that program, and I really look forward to hearing from them. So please join me in welcoming them. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 그럼 이제 좌장이신 생남 교수님께 마이크를 넘기겠습니다. Okay, now I will pass the mic to the Professor Sang Nam, the moderator of today's forum.
Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here with great minds who study game and education, and also lifelong education utilizing game-focused curriculum here to talk about positive impact that games can bring to this society. Before we start, I want to do some little exercise. Anyone know this guy? Anyone know this guy? Yes? Yeah, T-Rex or Tyrannosaurus. So if you like dinosaurs, okay, you would easily recognize this guy. Okay? But my question is not who this guy is. My question is, how do we know? We have this picture displayed here, okay, but no one was there to take this picture. So we only know because we found these fossils. Fossil is a trace of the past. We can imagine the past by collecting these fossils. In other words, fossils connect us to the past. We can interact with the past through these fossils. Okay, this is an interesting picture. Yeah. Let's take a look at this picture together. Any familiar faces? Kind of small, but you might be able to recognize few faces. Yes, there is Albert Einstein. Okay. And if you look his left, you would find Marie Curie. Also, you would find Pauli, Bohr, Schrödinger, Heisenberg, and Lorentz. This picture was taken at the Solvay conference in 1927. This picture is really powerful to me because it gave me a new perspective. I knew these people pretty well. I mean, Einstein, energy equals mc squared. Marie Curie, the first woman to receive a Nobel Prize. Bohr, we know Bohr model. Okay? And of course, we know Schrödinger's cat. Okay? I'm more of a dog person, but we all know Schrödinger's cat, right? But one thing I didn't know is that they actually gathered together physically to have this intellectual exchange. This is, to me, a meaningful fossil to show me the past, a powerful evidence, okay, that these great minds actually influenced one another to share the to shape the modern science. So let's try to live our own digital fossils. I'd like you to join me, leaving some digital fossils for today's event and for our future generation. Please take your smartphone out. Okay? I'm inviting you to take your smartphone out. Take some selfies or take a picture of your surroundings and post it on your social media. Maybe this is a good time, okay, for you to post it on your social media. Okay? Maybe we can use hashtag ICLC5, hashtag Incheon, Yeonsugu, and George Mason, Korea, okay, or game. Okay? I want you to take this moment to create, okay, your own digital fossils. Okay? By doing this, we are leaving digital fossils which can be found by people of the future to understand what we are doing now. We're not dinosaurs, but people will know. In the year of 2021, here at Yeonsugu, Incheon, Korea, people who truly care about lifelong learning gathered to build healthy and resilient cities through learning, especially using game and game-focused curriculum. So now, let's talk about this session. As you can see from the theme of this session, we'll talk about game. You might wonder what we can learn from game, but the game will be an important major factor to change the way we teach and learn. We know that game will be a focal point of the future of digital life. Thus, it's important to know how technology has been improved. Media theorist Marshall McLuhan acknowledged that human inventions are extensions of human body. Thus, technologies we have reflect our desire to extend the functionality of our body part or desire to amplify the ability we have. Also, he proposed the term global village, where people are more interconnected because of advanced media technologies. It is true that we experience things that the past generation never ever imagined, okay, at our fingertips using smartphone. Game is everywhere. Okay? When we talk about game and gamer, you might say, whoa, I'm not a gamer, I don't play game. But I bet most of you, okay, installed at least one game in your smartphone. And you probably play a game like time to time. Maybe, again, you don't think you're a gamer, but that's like what we do. Game is everywhere. So, whether we like it or not, people, especially the next generation, have been growing up with playing games. Okay? Instead of taking away games from them, it would be wiser to find ways to use games for our own benefit. Because of the negative connotation attached to game and gamers' culture, we don't realize how big the game industry is. The game industry has been growing all the time. In the year of 2020, the world's 2.7 billion gamers spent $159.3 million on games. And the market will surpass 200 billion by 2023. If you don't understand the importance of the game, you are missing out. It is widely believed that the game industry will foster new growth to drive the future economy. Also, there is no doubt that advanced technologies driven by the game industry will make our lives more prosperous. Throughout this session, we'll focus on examining the current status and future of the game industry. Especially, we will introduce serious games, which are not for pure entertainment, but for serious social and educational impact. Also, we will recognize how gamification has supported traditional education with best practices. Furthermore, we will share how Mason Game and Technology Academy, affiliated with George Mason University, has contributed to the lifelong education while working with game-focused curriculum. The world is changing. The world is changing so fast. Maybe it's not even possible to predict the future. The best way to predict the future is to create one. Now, I want you to be open-minded and ready for 21st century learning with games. Back in 1936, Laszlo Moholy-Nagy once said, the illiterate of the future will be the person ignorant of the use of the camera as well as the pen alike. I think this statement talked about an important aspect of digital literacy. In 2021, I want to acknowledge the importance of the game. The illiterate of the future will be the person ignorant of the use of the game as well as the pen alike. Remember this, game is everywhere. And in near future, you cannot imagine a life without game. Now, the question is how we are going to build healthy and resilient cities through utilizing positive impacts games can bring to our society. Now, I'd like to introduce great minds who will share their passion and expertise on how game can change the world. we have Professor Eric Piccioni, the game professor at George Mason University, and he also administrator. He's associate director of computer game design program at George Mason University. And we have Professor Jungmin Kwon, professor at Seoul National University of Education, and she specializes special education and how we can use game to teach and learn better. So she actually is highly demanded speaker in South Korea, and she contributed to many conferences as speakers and organizers. And we have Professor James Casey, who is a director of Virginia Sears Game Institute, which is our affiliated institute that do the research, applied research, and incubating startup companies, startup cultures, and offers continuing education utilizing game-focused curriculum. So those three people will share their expertise with you today. And first, I'm going to invite Professor Eric Piccioni and for his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sang. Good morning, everybody. I'm truly honored to be here today, and I'm excited for this opportunity that we have to exchange ideas and concepts with each other. And today I'd like to discuss computer games and their impact on our future. That's the one. All right. So as it's already been mentioned, video games, computer games are a thriving industry that is growing rapidly every year. It's estimated, to touch on what's been mentioned previously, it's estimated that by the end of this year, people playing computer games will reach 2.9 billion players, with an estimated market worth of $175 billion US. By 2023, that market worth is expected to reach 200 billion US dollars. The growth rate of the game industry from 2006, as you can see here in the chart, from 2006 to 2020 was higher than that of all other entertainment, including films, rising from $8 billion US to 160 billion in less than 15 years. Games have been adopted worldwide at a phenomenal rate. Now, one of the reasons for this is because games tend to be the driving force of technology. As new interactive devices and software are developed, typically they get tested in the game sphere first. Whether we're talking about graphics or hardware or devices for interactivity. This keeps games on the cutting edge, evolving at the speed of technology. And while those advancements are often used for entertainment purposes, typically, they're also advancing the way we learn. Things like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. These innovations are perfect tools for transforming education, training, and research into an immersive experience that is revolutionizing the way we comprehend and retain information. You see, games can be much more than just a way of having fun. Game developers are working to unlock the full potential of games for purposes other than commercial entertainment. This field, as many are already aware, this field is referred to as serious games. And these are games that are designed for education, for workplace training, for healthcare, and a host of other purposes. Games are the ultimate engagement tool. Studies show that serious games appeal to our intrinsic human motivational needs. And they have the power to tap into our brain and motivate behavioral change, trigger real emotions, and create memorable user experiences. In short, they allow us to learn material by living the material. The benefits of serious games are numerous. Game-based learning allows for greater memory retention, for example, through repetition and immersion into vivid worlds that leave a visual impression and a visceral impression on the player. Games also allow players to train by practicing in a simulated environment that may be safer than practicing in the real world, such as military or first responder simulations. But perhaps I think the greatest advantage to game-based learning is that it's fun. It motivates the player to play and explore, and it engages them in a way that makes them want to learn. Now, there are many examples of serious games helping people to learn. You've got pilots, you've got, as I mentioned, first responders, you've got soldiers, doctors, all use simulations to practice their skills in a safe setting. Though these simulations, through these simulations, they interact with other characters and use the knowledge that they've gained along the way in a practical way. Serious games, well, they offer the best of both worlds when you think about it. On the one hand, simulators try to reproduce actual reality as faithfully as they can. And on the other hand, they allow users to practice in safety in a virtual environment. So although they are trying to recreate reality for the purposes of immersion and the purposes of creating an environment that is easy to learn from, at the same time, it is still virtual, which means it's safe. Users can practice in safety in a virtual environment without any risk of personal harm or material damage. This is particularly important, as you can see on the slide. This is particularly important when it comes to doing things like performing surgery or flying a plane. The repetition and revision that serious games offer will give the player an opportunity to master these skills in safety. Now, introducing games into a classroom setting enables a student to engage with the class and with the teacher in a way that is more immersive than just listening to somebody talk. There are many reasons for this method's effectiveness. It engages students' imaginations, it develops critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and it promotes teamwork and communication. It's sort of an offshoot of the multiplayer game, where students can play together in a cooperative sense. And they learn together not only the material, but they also learn to work together. They learn to communicate with each other better, and they learn to plan together. It's possibly the most, but I'd say possibly the most powerful reason for its effectiveness is that it's fun. It makes the student want to learn, and it presents the lessons in a way that is easy to visualize and easy to comprehend and easy to sort of mentally digest. Through game-based learning, students are not just studying the material, they are experiencing it firsthand. Now, a direct line can be traced from the earliest board games, like chess or Go, that were used in the past for military training and education. There's a direct line you can link those games to the current application of serious games and current gaming technology. Game simulations can help provide valuable insights and analysis on combat situations in a virtual setting. It gives the soldiers a chance to become familiar with terrain, familiar with their environment, familiar with where they're going to be sent, long before they even set boots on the ground. And they learn how to operate vehicles and machinery safely without any risk to themselves or to anyone else. And they have an opportunity to practice field medicine, again, before they get out in the field. This also, as before, promotes teamwork and strategic thinking. It's sort of an extension of the classroom setting. So, serious games are often used for healthcare education and training, and creating virtual situations that are able to accurately convey how a procedure or a skill is supposed to be performed in a way that is risk-free and promotes patient safety. Research has shown that computer games improve the performance of surgeons, where they have a chance to practice ahead of time, making them a practical method for healthcare training. These games can be adapted to meet a variety of healthcare training needs, from diagnosis to actual surgery. As serious games become more commonplace, more people will be gaming than ever before, as students and employees immerse themselves in simulated scenarios that make it easier to comprehend and learn. What's really fascinating is that generations growing up right now have never known a world without computer games. And it's really kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. For them, games are second nature. They've known them all their lives. And so it's only natural that they're going to build a world that works the way games do. For instance, machines that we interact with every day may in the future, and they already have started, but in the future will adopt game-style user interfaces that are more intuitive and easy to use. The applications for game-like mechanics in non-game settings, I think, will become at one point commonplace. And serious games will help introduce new technology that we haven't even imagined yet, whatever's around the corner that we haven't even thought of yet. These new generations are going to pioneer them, and they're going to use games as a platform to make that happen. And this will create a world that is easier, safer, and smarter, a place to be than it is now. As Stephanie Olson of CNET News once put it, the best way to change the future is to play with it first. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Jungmin Kwon. I am a professor at the Seoul National University of Education in Korea, and I was also a visiting scholar at George Mason last year. And I am also the author of a best-selling book titled Master of Distance Learning. Seoul National University of Education is a federally funded university, and we train pre-service and in-service teachers. My research area includes gaming and education, artificial intelligence in classrooms, and distance learning. Today, I'm here to talk about game and education. And since you are in Korea and we are going to be talking about game, we might as well be talking about Squid Game. Do you know Squid Game? Have you watched it? Can you raise your hand if you have watched it? So, everybody. Almost everybody. Okay. So the new Netflix series Squid Game. Did you enjoy it? Did you find it interesting? Yes. I never watched Netflix dramas, but this one, I had to watch it because it had the title Game in it. And since I researched game, I had to watch it. If you have been up to date with the current affairs of the world, it's hard to miss the newest craze about the Squid Game. The hype has been spreading like wildfire all over the globe. So, what is it about Squid Game that's making it so popular? Squid Game is a survival drama that revolves around a contest where 456 players in deep financial debt put their lives at risk to play a series of children's games for a chance to win 45.6 billion won. That's about 40 million US dollars. Director Hwang wrote Squid Game based on his own personal experiences and thoughts on capitalism and class struggles in South Korea. But the reason why it is so popular is because the viewers around the world find themselves empathizing with the characters in the story. And after watching the whole show, you can't help but view life as a game. What distinguishes this story from other survival stories is that if the majority of the players decide to cancel the game, it is immediately terminated. In other words, they can either choose to stay in the game or they could leave. And of course, they choose to stay. The players in the Squid Game are not stranded on a desert island or in a virtual reality like in other movies. They're placed in a real-life stadium. But the players choose to play the game because the game of life outside of the stadium is even more cruel. Yes, life is a game. It has rules, competitions, and players. People who know the rules, who are competitive, and who have the resources excel at it. People who don't get the rules or just naturally not competitive or don't have the resources easily become losers. There are people who cheat, and then there are people who decide to give up. This game of life is played everywhere around the world by every member of the society. That is one reason why the show was so popular, but that is not the only reason. As soon as the series was out, people were creating their own Squid Games in Roblox and other user-programmed game platforms. They would recreate the game environment in the virtual world as it was in the original show and play the games with other live players. These game videos have hundreds of thousands or even millions of views on YouTube. For example, Red Light, Green Light Challenge has emerged as a particularly popular game on Roblox. Okay, does that sound creepy and fun? The avatars would move, then stop, then move, then stop, just like the real game. This guy you see right there, that guy over there, his name is Mr. Beast, and he's a popular personality on YouTube, or at least that's what my kids told me. I never knew him before Squid Game. He recreated the whole Squid Game and held a real contest in which he gave out $45.6 thousand. If you watch the video, you will see that people are truly having fun playing the virtual Squid Game. And on the right here, you see a virtual Dalgona game where you have to cut out the shape without breaking the whole candy within the time limit. The Netflix show has only been on the network for over a month now, and we already see tons of recreated games in the virtual world. And it's not only in the virtual world. People want to play the game in the real world. So they order costumes, which I did as well, cut out Dalgona candies, which I made at home as well, and play tug of war, which I played with my kids as well. And of course, minus the lethal part, of course. They wait in line for hours outside a Squid Game pop-up store to participate in mini Squid Games to take on the challenge and experience the thrills. And that's not all. Even though I'm not presenting here on the screen, TikTok and Instagram are overflowed with people either playing Squid Game or role-playing Squid Game. Do you find this phenomenon interesting? Because I, as a social science researcher, find this social phenomenon intriguing. Because when we see a show, for instance, Grey's Anatomy, my favorite medical drama, we watch it, we think about it, we talk about it, but we don't play it out. But this Squid Game drama, people want to participate in games so much that they almost immediately recreated it in virtual worlds and real worlds. Why? Why do they want to play this game? Do you find it interesting? What mobilizes people to act it out? Why do they want to play the game so much? I believe it is because our brains are wired for games and play. Since we are born, we are inclined to be curious, imaginative, and engaged in playful discovery. In fact, some scholars believe all forms of play are games, even the ones that don't seem to have obvious rules, like playing with dolls or just roaming freely on the playground. Play is game, and game is play. And humans, from the very beginning, learn through play. Kids learn social interaction through play. Kids learn laws of nature through play. Kids learn about themselves and the world through play. Then they enter school, and all of a sudden, play is considered a waste of time. Games are only for recreational purposes, and digital games, if you noticed in Korea, they suddenly become causes of addiction and crimes. Korean parents, they don't like games. They don't want to hear the word G. They don't even want to hear the word game in their conversation because they're so sick of their children playing games. But as we have witnessed again in the Squid Game phenomenon, we're naturally wired for games and play. So teachers and researchers around the world have been applying gamification strategies to learning for a while now. Game and education, the two words that don't seem to get along with each other. This is often our go-to solution for those kids who fail in school, who aren't motivated to learn, or those who have trouble learning in traditional ways. I myself, as a researcher in disability studies and special education, applying game elements to learning contents has produced surprising outcomes for those with and without disabilities. Yes, I acknowledge that there are families and parents who are in pain due to their children's extreme game playing, but then there are also families and parents who see games as their only hope for their children's learning. And research has shown that gamifying learning has promising effects on children's learning. Jim G., who is the leading scholar in gaming in education and who was also my teacher at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, argues that games are thinking tools. When it is done right, it empowers learners, makes learning pleasurable, and helps build values and identity in learners. How to make learning fun and meaningful? Try applying these game mechanics and elements to your teaching. Add a story, provide resources, let learners explore freely. Hide Easter eggs, give them tools, let them take on challenges and win badges. Design your lesson in pleasantly challenging levels, give them rewards, let them monitor their own progress. You can apply just one of these strategies, or you can apply all at once in your lesson. Gamifying learning is not to create a fierce competition or to control students' behaviors, but to make learning meaningful and enjoyable. Research shows that gamification of learning has these effects. Students with otherwise low motivation for learning are motivated to participate in class activities and group works. More students experience deeper learning compared to rote learning or just simple memorization. They come out of class with better experience. They are given more choices in a gamified lesson. More choices usually means more ownership in their own learning. And oftentimes for learners with disabilities, learning in gamified environments helps them focus better in a safer environment. Recently, with the worldwide pandemic going on, learning has moved into the virtual worlds, which we also call the metaverse. Metaverse is the digital earth that lies on top of the physical earth. Our classes and schools and meetings have moved to the digital earth world. And with the technology development and creativity of some programmers around the world, the virtual world is now visual, where we can go to play and learn in. COVID-19 has sped up our move into the digital world. And I am not kidding. Do you have real estate in the metaverse? You should get one, because it's going to be too late. From Squid Game to the metaverse, we are immersed in games. And educators and managers of school systems, we should not shy away from the fact that we are wired to play games and that there are several other parallel worlds that our kids reside in, and that the world is changing fast. The world is changing, and so must education. Education should be leading the way through, not drag behind. The reality is that the companies and businesses are leading the change, but not schools or the education systems. We're barely catching up. So today, I ask you to be more open to playing games and learn from it. Apply what you have learned into your own education. Instead of trying to change the learners, try to change the story so the learners are motivated to hear. Try to change your design so the learners are motivated to participate. All players have hope to win in gaming. They can always try again when they fail a mission. Just like in a game, let us give them more chances. Let us produce winners. Let us empower our learners in every level, in every game. Thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you, sir. That works. Excellent. Hi. So I'm going to talk to you about lifelong education using game-based, game-focused curriculum. So let's make sure my clicker works. There we go. So first thing I want to do is talk about our organization. And sorry, I try to keep my mouth towards the microphone. Our organization, we're based in George Mason University. As we heard, it's a Tier 1 research university. And over a decade ago, we founded the game design program as an innovative, unique way to get kids interested in creating games. It's a combination of a lot of disciplines, and it's a great program. But what we wanted to do was take that and go beyond. And so we started the Virginia Serious Games Institute to really promote all the stuff that we've been hearing about today. And to do that, there's three things, and Sang mentioned them earlier. We do research, but we also build out of that research. We do incubation, so for small companies, we get them started and we keep them going and hopefully get them to make more games. But finally, and the one I really want to concentrate on today, is outreach. And so, click. There we go. Our outreach program is called the Mason Game and Technology Academy. And our goal is to teach kids of all ages. You know, whether you're 8 or you're 88, we want you to be interested in STEM and games and how to take science and technology and make it part of lifelong learning. And so we do it through, obviously, game design, but we also teach artificial intelligence and machine learning, AR, VR, all these new technologies that are coming across. That is part of what we teach. And our goal is to get these kids, and sometimes adults, engaged in learning. Because if we can get them engaged, they will learn better, they will learn longer, and hopefully generate that lifelong commitment to learning. So what you can see here is kind of what we call our pipeline of talent. By having this outreach program and reaching out to kids while they're young and they're malleable, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things and about play and all this in a minute, and we heard a lot of great stuff already, we want to get them learning early, right? Get them while they're young. Get them interested, engaged. They just don't want to look at books. They want to look at stuff that engages them. If we get them started, then they can go to George Mason University, whether here being Korea or back in the States. And then they can take that and go into many different ways, whether it's making games for a living, making serious games, researching games, being a teacher. And then the Virginia Serious Games Institute is designed to further their career, give them more options, allow them to grow as a learner, and then eventually, hopefully, give back. And so what you can see is we actually get a lot of students that graduate, and they go on to start their own companies, or they go on to teach in our programs, and it becomes this kind of pipeline of talent, a circle of life within the digital industry, which is great, and that's really what we're trying to promote. And so I want to talk about games as curriculum. And we've heard a little bit about that already. You know, you can take mechanics of games and you can incorporate them into, whoops, sorry, I'm making sure I'm on track. As an addition to your curriculum, whether it's just mechanics, whether it's adding games at different parts, et cetera, or it could be like our games, our programs in the Mason Game and Technology Academy, it could be whole courses designed to build games. The idea, though, is to take this new medium and incorporate it into the learning. What would be better than just reading about history than seeing history? And then going from seeing history to actually interacting with history. We saw the T-Rex earlier. It's great to see a picture of what we only had fossils of, but now we can run away from them or chase them or grow them in a zoo. All of these things are available through games. It gives us so much more and it allows the kids to really get engaged so that they want to know more. And so we have this kind of spectrum of how we can use games, and it can be as simple as that. A mechanic here, a game there, building a whole curriculum around a game, creating a metaverse for education, as it were. Those are all great ideas that we can look at for the future. And what's nice is all the entertainment games we talked about today, or you think about like the Minecraft or the Roblox, they're really useful for education because kids already love them. There are games like Assassin's Creed that are set in ancient Greece and ancient Egypt, and they're meticulously researched, and you can learn so much history from them that if you love them, you will go out and you will find out more. We kind of heard this a little bit already, but Mr. Rogers, the famous entertainer, once said, "Play is the work of kids." That is how they learn. That is how, they fall down, they run around, they make up games, they eventually get made into Squid Games. All of these different things, kids learn from that. And the reason they learn from that is because it is fun. It is a passion of them. It is engagement. And if we can keep that going so that once they get into school, it's not just books and tests, then we will keep that engagement and they will continue learning, and that will push the lifelong learning objective that we're all here today to learn about. So how do we make this happen? We have to build this pipeline of trust. We have to make people understand games. We've heard a little bit about this already. You're learning about games because your kids are, maybe, right? You may not know enough about games, but you're learning because your kids love them. And so parents are where we need to start. And it's about making it relevant to the parents. So your kids might play games, and as we've heard, they may watch people play games, right? That seems silly, right? They're just watching people play games. But if you can make the connection for parents that, look, all of us are gamers. We've all rolled dice, played games, cards, bet on it, made bets with friends. We watch sports. As a society, we watch tons of sports. Why aren't we just playing them? We could say the same thing. Kids can tell us, like, why are you just watching sports? Same thing with games. That is their kind of sports. If we can make that relevance, if we can connect those, parents will understand. And then we show the benefits that Eric talked about, like how their skills and dexterity are better, how they are engaged in learning more, and parents will get on board. And then we need to move to teachers. Teachers are old too. That's fine. We need to get them into this. We need to show them the benefit. They know what works already, but we need to show them why this is better. We need to show them that, look, if your kid is interested, if they like dinosaurs, they're going to learn about dinosaurs. Can we make everything like that? Can we make games be that medium that makes all kinds of things, history, science, whatever, interesting? And that's where we get the teachers. And then, of course, we have to convince them of the budget and getting the games, and maybe it's just bringing in a game, or Minecraft, is cheap, and that's fine. And then there's industry. These are a little easier because we're promoting their technology. But at the same time, right, games still have that stigma, so how do we get them on board? It's by doing some of the things we talked about earlier. It's by showing that, look, we've had AR and VR for years, decades even. But now it's really starting to take off because people are making content for it. We're reaching out, we're doing the metaverse, we're doing all these things. If we can show them, look, we get the kids early, and they all know how to make content for your metaverse, then Facebook's going to do good because that's what they're promoting now, right? So we get industry on board, more resources for kids, everybody gets headsets. And then finally, and this one could be tough, is government. How do you get the government on board, right? Because the government wants to protect the children, it's addicting or different things. So you have to really find champions in government, people that you can show these benefits for, and just like we did with the parents or the teachers or the industry, show them the good stuff. Show them where they're already using game technologies or gamification for whether it's military defense, as we saw earlier, or whether it's business or economics. Show them how all these things can actually be beneficial to society, and that's why we're doing this conference, right? This lifelong learning. Show them that connection, work with them to prove that connection, and then that's when they will get on board. And we need all of those folks. So I'm going to wrap up here with two kind of perspectives to think about. What and how do we have to learn? So it used to be, when we explored, it was boats and planes and horses, and now we're going to space, and there's new technologies for that. There's new frontiers, right? The final one. We used to work the land by hand, and now we have tractors and motorized vehicles and drones and automation and new technologies. So it used to be just the farmer, but now it's the coder that is programming the drone or the robot that's going out there and getting crops. And so we need both, and we need to understand how to teach that. And so this automation, this new technology, all the things that we have to learn, we need to think about and how we do that. Likewise, we have lots and lots of ways to learn. It used to be the abacus. And now we have computers. We have computers in our pockets that are more powerful than anything that came before, and we can do tons and tons of stuff with. We used to just teach in the classroom a few people. Now we can teach anywhere in the world. We used to just have books, and we now have the World Wide Web. I used to have encyclopedias, gigantic sets. Now it's Wikipedia. All of these changes are for the better if we embrace them. We can make this a global lifelong learning if we embrace this technology, and that's what we need to do. So for my final thought, learning is not just for kids. We are constantly learning all throughout life, from young to old, whether it's things we enjoy, whether it's new skills, whether it's retraining. We need to have that learning be engaging. It's not just books and computers. It's not just traveling somewhere by plane or car to learn about it. Now we can put on headsets and visit there. It's not just a picture. It's not just a video. We can actually interact and almost be there through these technologies, and we need to embrace that. It's not just papyrus and paper anymore. It's, again, the World Wide Web. It's all these technologies that allow us to not just stand up here and lecture, but allow us to play games, to interact. It's not just multiple choice questions. It's a game that allows us to assess not only do you know the knowledge, but can you apply the knowledge? So all of these things I've talked about, all the digital stuff that we've mentioned, and all the ways that games can be done, all these divides that we're seeing from new and old technologies and new and old knowledge, et cetera, games can help us divide, or basically cross that gap. They've always been able to do that. We just need to embrace them, and we need to take them into the digital age, and we need that. So that's my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Casey. And yes, yeah, it's great to hear these great minds to talk about the positive impacts that game can bring to this society. Now we're going to have discussion session, and I'd like to invite 3 more subject matter experts to the stage to have discussion. I'm going to invite Professor Il-tae Kim, founding director of Comics and Animation Department at Joseon University. Please to the stage. And Professor Jared Brun, assistant professor of game design at Mason, Korea. Please. And also, I'd like to invite Professor John David McGrew to the stage. John David McGrew is expert on game design and game art. Okay, thank you. I have prepared a few questions to reflect what we just talked about. And I'm going to ask a question to our experts, and they will share their insights on this. First question is, how games can be a vehicle for learning? Professor Il-tae Kim?
소리 들리나요?
Can you hear me?
질문 주셨죠?
Yeah.
Can I answer the question?
Not many people need instruction when they start playing a new game for the first time. Why? It is because players dive into the game right away and learn how to play while playing the game. In other words, many elements in the game are intuitive and encouraging players to learn by themselves in immersive and highly engaged environment. I'm sure we can translate these good things to learning environment, and game actually show us how to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Then let's try to listen to Professor Jared Brun.
My answer is going to be going back to our first day in Game 101, in which we talk about what is a definition of game. You might find in a dictionary that it says it's something for diversion or amusement or something like that. But many of the panelists here are going to challenge that definition, and that games need to be more inclusive, and that they are systems with inputs and outputs. And something inherent about games, and that its quality of being a system makes it really qualified to teach systems. So think about the systems that you know, social systems, mathematical systems, scientific systems, where there's an input and an output. And a quality of games that they can make the learning cycle of those systems much quicker. So if you think about the classic sort of grading papers, waiting a week for your professor to finish grading, if they're good at, on top of grading. Well, games can make that feedback cycle much quicker. So in our experiential learning cycle, we create a strategy, we get some concrete experience, we reflect on that experience, and then we come up with a new strategy. And games can make that cycle much more quick, and we can get that feedback quicker. So that's one of the ways that games can be a tool for learning.
Great, thank you. And next question I have is, what specific skills can be acquired using game-focused curriculum? Let's go to Professor John David McGrew on this one.
Let's see, is this on? No, great.
Yes.
I think the pandemic has opened up a lot of innovation over time, as we've been limited in how we can meet together and come together. I think specifically we can take into account a lot of traditional areas of learning that required in-person before. So for example, I was speaking to someone in the welding industry not long ago who was developing a simulator to help welders in training learn how to weld so they didn't have to go through and come in person, use up valuable, limited resources to do so. In a similar area in nursing, it's a very stressful and crazy time for the healthcare workers right now. And to have simulations where nurses in training can go into a simulation, learn how to go into a patient's room, learn the checklist of things they need to go through, learn bedside manner, all without having to go physically into an environment that right now may be a little bit harder to get into because of the pandemic. In addition, also in the nursing field, we have anatomy simulations where things like cadavers and other limited resources are now made available and accessible to a wide range of students throughout the world that may not be able to go in person to, again, hospitals, which have been fairly locked down over this whole period of time.
Great, thank you. And Professor Jungmin Kwon, like she's an expert on the education field. So can you add a few more specific skills we can be acquired using game-focused curriculum?
Sure. Because I research kids with disabilities, we tend to focus on behavior, something that we can observe and measure. And a lot of times it's very observable to see that change in their behavior, especially learning job skills. But at the same time, I want to mention that just playing the game is being inside of that culture. And I'm quoting the parents of kids with disabilities. They tell me that they want their children to experience that normal lives that other people live. And that is such a big part for their experience. So it may not be exactly a skill, but it's part of the experience that is very important for these kids.
Yeah, that's really interesting, like simulation. And we're talking about metaverse and digital twin. So possibly we can actually give that kind of secondhand digitally mediated experience, but they can kind of experience those things they will never have actually in real life. So that's very interesting. Next question I have is, any benefits from using game-focused learning during the pandemic? Professor Yoo-tae Kim?
I think the ownership of learning, unlike traditional learning environment, in game-focused learning, a learner is highly motivated, engaged, and self-directed with a sense of autonomy, choice, and responsibility in their action. Online learning using only recorded video doesn't work because there's not much interaction and engagement. But if we use game-focused learning, we allow learning to be the owners of their own learning. Games keep playing the game when they have their own choice and control. Game-focused learning can give our learners choice and control so that they can be proactive learners who can have one ownership of their learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you. So he talks about ownership of learning, and obviously, game can actually give like more higher engagement in immersive environment. So potentially can have like learners can have like more ownership. So Professor Eric Piccioni, like any benefits from using game-focused learning during the pandemic?
Well, I think that of course, the obvious benefit is accessibility. That you don't have to, in this day and age, you don't have to go anywhere to play a game. And so being able to have access to that from home is a very powerful thing. But I would say that probably even more important is the ability to use games in a multiplayer sense, to be able to play with others in a virtual environment that you might not, that you're not able to get together with in person. And being able to foster that level of cooperation, that level of working together, through games, is something that you can do no matter where you are, and I think that's a huge benefit.
Great, thank you. I mean, well, this is really interesting topic because we are kind of going through this pandemic. So maybe I can ask Professor John David McGrew. Can you add a little bit more to this question?
Certainly. I think this is a time of a lot of high stress for a lot of people. And so having game-focused learning is a great way to help people learn in a way that is relieving stress. So fighting against these external forces that are coming in here and bringing us down, games can be used to uplift and enhance. They can be used to, as was mentioned before, help us socialize. As we're social creatures, we have an opportunity to socialize without endangering ourselves by being physically in the same location.
Great, thank you, thank you. Let's go to the next question. What are the roles of government, industry, and academia to initiate game-focused learning program? I know Professor James Casey kind of covered this a little bit, and can you add more to this?
Sure, I'll try. So it's interesting because each of these has a different role to play, and how do we get this out there? You know, obviously, government brings regulations, sometimes funding. Industry provides technology and this, push to get their stuff out there. And academia is the ones that are actually going to probably be implementing these learning programs. But it's a coordinating factor. And sometimes I think the important thing is we need to actually develop what's the right word for it? A desire for this, right? We need, the kids want games. They love games, right? As we've seen, we're talking about all the stuff you can do during the pandemic, right? And it's not even just game-focused learning that is benefiting kids during the pandemic. This is, as we mentioned, this is their social outlet during the pandemic. It's the only way to get together with people. It provides them opportunity to learn about how to talk to people. And it actually provides safety in doing it because they don't have to do it as themselves if they don't want to. They can provide avatars. They can try different roles on. It gives them a flexibility they don't have. So we know a desire is there in the ones that are using it. Now we have to do, kind of like I talked about earlier, is we need to push that desire upward so that the parents are understanding of those benefits, and they can then talk to the teachers, and the teachers can see those benefits. And it's almost like everything I talked about on my slide is almost this cascading effect. If we can generate the focus and get folks like myself or academics or teachers to say, look, I want to do this. I don't want to give grades, I want to give scores, because kids understand scores, right? So let's change up our curriculum some. Give me the flexibility. Ideally, give me the money, but give me the flexibility to try new things because that will get kids excited. And it will allow kids, with disabilities or kids that are struggling to be included. It'll give them ways that they have not traditionally had to be part of this and experience things that they may never have the ability to experience. And that's how we get people on an equitable playing field, is by using these technologies in the right way. And so we drive this desire and we drive this push up. We know industry has money and they want to get their stuff out there. I'm sure Facebook will give you tons of money to use Oculus and push towards the metaverse. I'm sorry, I guess they're called Meta now. What we have to do is we have to encourage people not to think just about what they consider the negatives of gaming, because that's what's driving a lot of the government aspect of it, right? They want to make sure people are happy because they're like, oh, I hear that people are addicted to games, so let's regulate them. Sure, that could be a problem, but let's approach that the right way. Let's look honestly at what the games are providing as well. Maybe there are some things we can change, and part of that is industry. The game developers need to look at what they are doing. Whether it's entertainment or serious, how are they providing a positive experience, whether it's for fun or for education? So all of these things, it's a very intricate puzzle, but I think if we can start with the people that are benefiting and push it up and make sure people understand, I think that's how we get the government. I think that's how we get everybody on board. We show the benefits. It's like anything else we do, right? You can boil it down to what is the return on investment of games? And I think we can show that, but now we have to show it to the people that are going to give us money, the people that are going to embrace it as parents or teachers, the people that are not used to these technologies because they're new and scary. It's like, oh, my Windows is going to crash. No, no, no. Don't worry about that. Let's just play games. You got a phone now. Everything's on the phone anyways, and phones are fine. So it's that kind of system. We make desire, we make the benefits, we show all this, we push that up, and then we will get people, I think, more embracing of it.
Great, thank you. And I know Dr. Kwon actually works with government and industry in Korea, so you might have a few words to share, please.
Okay, I can only speak for the academia in the schools.
Okay.
The problem, okay, I'm speaking about, and I'm representing Korea here. The problem with Korean game situation is that kids play too much games, and the public opinion about games is very, very negative. It's almost as if game is like drugs or alcohol. And the government, they put a lot of regulations so that kids don't play games. They shut down the game system at midnight so they can go back home and get some sleep. However, I do not believe the problem is with the game. I think the problem is our curriculum, which is not fun at all. And I believe that fun equals accessibility. It enables kids to access the education that they need. So, and it's interesting because the academia puts the problem on games while the problem is on themselves. And then they try to solve that problem through game-based learning. So there's an irony there. But the main thing about Korean education is that we need to change our curriculum so it is more fun and more accessible so that kids do not actually need game-based learning and just learn. Thank you.
Great, thank you, thank you. And next question probably is pretty big and broad, but I want to talk about this. And how could games be used to prepare young people for the 21st century citizenship? And let's go to Professor Jared Brun, please.
Yeah, so today we saw a lot of different examples of different applications for games that you may not have been aware of before. Medical, simulation. One of those applications is awareness, bringing awareness to topics. And being a 21st century citizen means that you are making it a goal for you to become more aware of the problems of the world and aiming for a positive social impact. So these games that promote awareness of different topics, you can go to gamesforchange.com. There's lots of different examples. I'm in a group that is all about these sort of games about awareness. I'm making a game about mental health. My friends have made games about racial profiling in the United States. I have another friend who made a game about her experience as an immigrant in the United States. These games are being made. They don't have the social sort of awareness, but they are out there, and that is an application for games, is to bring awareness to different social problems that can be thought about in a different way through games.
So you're talking about the empathy through game to aware the situation and especially focus on people like underprivileged people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's great. And Professor James Casey, like I'm not sure what's the ideal 21st century citizenship to you, but definitely you can share your insights, please.
Sure, absolutely. Honestly, I mean, when I think about this, and if you go back to kind of what this conference is about and some of the topics that our keynote speakers talked about, like climate change and equity and lifelong learning, I honestly don't think it's just the young people that we need games for to get them into the 21st century citizenship. I think we need to concentrate on how do we get everybody involved in this. Yes, the kids, absolutely, because they're going to have the longest time in this new world as we see it. But I think we need to bring along the adults, the middle-aged people, right? The people that are struggling to put into words some of these new concepts that they're being exposed to across the board. If they can see and experience and be immersed better in it versus just talking heads on the news, always bringing them bad news or always bringing them, you know, divisive news or whatever, if they can actually just experience things to learn and, as you said, empathize with other people or with these topics or these challenges that we face that we talk about today, I think honestly, games are a great platform. And I speak of games in a broad sense because, you know, they could be as simple as a story presented interactively. It can be a virtual reality experience. Imagine, you know, here's what happens if global warming hits your area, right? And you seeing it and you're experiencing it, or seeing what other people live like and experience are huge to making not only children 21st century citizens, but all of us, I think.
Great, thank you. And Professor Eric Pisciani, actually, I know him very well. And he has two daughters. Actually, I mean, truly like responsible citizens. So probably you can share your insights, like how could games can be like to use it to prepare the 21st century citizenship.
Oh, absolutely. I think that one of the most fundamental aspects of 21st century citizenship is the global community that we're building in this century. And very few things create global communities quite so effectively as video games. Games, you know, whether you're talking about MMOs, World of Warcraft, or if you're talking about Fortnite or Animal Crossing, all of these have their own communities. They build communities. They foster, you know, going out and meeting people, and you know, no matter where that you are on the planet. And I think that these, being able to create a virtual community is one step closer to creating a closer, tighter global community. And I think that games definitely contribute to that.
Great, thank you. And before we go to my last slide, I want to ask you this. Let's say I recommend you to play game because. Okay, so I want you to kind of like just share like one sentence or two. Like I recommend you to play game because. Let's start with Professor James Casey.
I'll take the easy answer because they're fun. Everybody loves games, right? Like we see the Squid Game be popular. It's fun, but it engages you in different ways, and you will learn more from doing it, even if it's just how to have fun. And so I think games is that the reason it's fun. That was the easy answer. Sorry.
Great, thank you. That's fine. And Professor John David McGrew.
I think having family all over the world, this is easy for me, is because it can connect us in an interactive and engaging way.
Great, thank you. That's a good one. Professor Jared Brun?
My answer is games are for everyone. So there's something out there for you. Think about the books, the film, the shows that have influenced you. Games can have that effect on you as well.
Great. Professor Jungmin Kwon?
I would say game is life, and life is just like a game, and that you'll be better at it.
Good. And Professor Pishani.
I think that games encourage imagination, and where else can you be almost anything and try any other kind of life, and be able to just encourage your own sense of imaginary growth. I think that's extremely powerful.
Great, thank you. Okay, my last slide is, well, can we go to my slides? Okay. The best way to predict the future is, you can actually fill in the blank with whatever you want. Okay? But we hope, as game researchers and game designers and game developers, or just game lovers, we want you to consider this. Okay? Be open-minded, okay? And be ready. Okay? Game is everywhere. And I guarantee, like on the way to this room, I saw actually many people on the hallway holding their smartphone, okay? Doing something on the smartphone, right? I mean, it's coming. Whether you like it or not, game is everywhere. Yes, game might be a root of evil, but it's only because game is everywhere. So like people sometimes emphasize the negative effect. If you truly try, okay, you will be able to see all these positive effects. I mean, look at us. We play game, we love game, we turn out okay. Okay? So the best way to predict the future is to create one. And I invite you to join me, okay, to use your imagination, how this life will be better and better with fun and empathy with friends and all the connection with other players, okay? And true spirit, okay? The adventurous spirit, okay? And in the game. Okay? Once again, I want you to be open-minded and be ready for it, and let's create future together using game. Thank you.
네, 수고해주신 생남 자장께 다시 한번 따뜻한 박수 부탁드립니다. Thank you very much, Professor 생남. 네, 오늘 게임과 교육 이 상당히 다른 성격의 두 가지 가까운 미래에는 서로의 기능적인 장점을 극대화하는 방향으로 이 상부상조의 관계가 될 것이다라는 공통적인 견해를 주셨는데요. 좋은 발표 준비해 주신 우리 연사분들께 다시 한번 감사드립니다. So today our speakers they shared the common view that games and education there's a lot different keywords. They have to go together in a way maximize each other's functional benefits in the near future. So thanks to the speakers prepared for good presentation. 네, 이것으로 세션을 종료하겠습니다. 참가자들께서는 퇴장하시기 전에 지금 나눠드리고 있는 설문지를 꼭 작성해 주시길 바랍니다. 또 소지품을 반드시 챙겨 주시고요. 통역기는 자리에 두고 이동해 주시면 되겠습니다. 또 이동 시에는 계속해서 마스크 착용을 부탁드립니다. 자, 잠시 후 다시 뵙겠습니다. 감사합니다. This is the end of the session. So thank you very much for participating today. Please fill out the questionnaire we gave you before you went out. And please make sure to take care of your personal belongings. And those of you who were using an interpretation receiver, please left it on the desk before you went out. And please always wear a mask even during breaks. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.